some of us familiar with kind of like adult entertainment level games on Steam and any other service, like you've probably heard of the game Super Seducer. It's in some aspect. And it's a little bit of a different turn from what you would expect from like your usual hentai games, your VR, like, oh, look at the pretty anime girls and like fake touch the titties kind of stuff. Super Seducer is a little bit different in the sense of that it's live action. Now, in the first two games, to my knowledge, there was never any nudity. There was like, girls in bikinis and stuff like that, but it was never to the point that it would be considered pornographic. But it seems that Super Seducer 3 is going to be falling in that realm, and because of that, Steam decided against posting it on their platform. So I'm going to butcher this fucking name. Richard Ruina came out with a tweet saying, like, Steam has banned and removed my game from the store. They will not release it in any form. Our page is gone, and our 61,700 wish lists are gone. Prior to this, they told me that they expect either approval or feedback. We repeatedly said we do whatever we needed, whatever they needed. So before I even dig into the screenshots that he's given, keep in mind that it's just screenshots he's given. We don't know if there are mails prior to this that are different. We don't know what the context of what he said before that. So before taking any of this into account, we have to understand that there is a large train of content that we have no idea what happened. So for all we know, that like prior to this, they told me they expect either approval or feedback, but we don't know what he said in the last mail before the mail that he shows here, where it said like, oh yeah, no, we're not getting this out here. So starting with the first one. So this is from Steam, just saying, hey, we've finished reviewing your latest build, and we aren't going to be able to ship Super Seducer 3 on Steam. As we have mentioned previously, Steam does not ship sexually explicit images of real people. After multiple product resubmissions and product reviews, we feel that we are at an impasse, and therefore this decision is final. We do not have any additional feedback or details to share beyond what we have provided in previous conversations. And this is just like saying like, oh, how can we refund you for other stuff that we've done. But this is the core thing. So Steam said we don't ship sexually explicit images of real people. That makes perfect sense, because yes, you can have adult things on Steam if it's like hentai or whatever, because it's not real people. The second you get into the idea of real people, you run a lot of risks here, because you run into consent issues. You run into even the possibility of child pornography, like underage people. Even in general, like not even talking child pornography, just people that are under the age of 18, which is super illegal. And that's why Pornhub is seeing what they saw with like so many videos having to get purged because of that possibility. So I totally understand why Steam is not wanting to put this game on. And when he says, or when Richard says that, we were just expecting either approval or feedback, but then Steam says we feel we are an impasse and therefore the decision is final. That's why I said earlier, we don't know what was being said beforehand. Because now, when Richard does his follow-up message, it really does feel like, I would do whatever you want me to, in other words. But we got to keep in mind now that Steam just told him, we're not putting your game up and we're not changing this decision. That's when you go, okay, I could try to make myself look really good and take a screenshot of this. I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, but I think that you can leave an opening for that. He could be 100% being super sincere here, being like, yeah, no, 100%. If whatever you needed me to do, I would do, not a problem. Because I think he said, yeah, I'm ready to take a butcher knife to the game and take weeks to make all kinds of edits. But there is that part of my brain that goes, yeah, of course you're saying that now, when you know that your game is not going to get released on a platform that over 61,000 people have wishlisted. Yeah, I can see that you would suddenly be really taking this seriously. For all we know, that the messages that he was sending prior is like, I'm not changing that. You're ruining the vision of my game. Like, that's a possibility here. But he could be completely telling the truth as well. So to go through this whole thing. So, for this latest bill, I worked with a lawyer to put together what he said was a prophy given the laws you mentioned. In retrospect, I guess this is a mistake. I don't know what that's referring to. In your previous two messages, you mentioned feedback or approval and not cancellation, so I'm very surprised to receive this message. If I knew we had one more shot, we would have done things differently. Let's see. In the essence, the majority of the game is just people talking. I don't know if that's in reference of something, but Super Seducer is not the majority game, is just people talking. Everybody knows what that game is. It's fucking pseudo-porn. That's what it is. We're like, nobody is going to suddenly look at Super Seducer and think it's just a game about people talking. Get the fuck out of here with that one. That is the immediate pushback I will get here. If that's him saying it, then yeah, that's full of shit. I don't care what anybody says about that game. You take one look at that game and you think, okay, it's basically one step to porn. Let's see. And then he goes off saying like, oh, I'm sure you can imagine the expenses. I don't care. You know, if you knew that Steam wasn't going to put this on your platform, don't put nudity in your game. It's that simple. I've also expressed before and repeat again, we are sorry that we are in this situation and are not trying to push our position in any way. I feel like if Steam says you're at an impasse, I'm kind of going to doubt on that, but I'm not going to make any claims here. We did not make a game that was trying to be controversial or sexually explicit in ways that other games that have been banned have. Well, okay, maybe you're not trying to be controversial, but sexually explicit, if apparently they were banning this game because it was going to have real nudity, that's sexually explicit. I don't care what your reasoning is. That's sexually explicit. Nobody sees a picture of a girl like completely butt naked and thinking, oh no, there's nothing sexual about this at all. I know that people try to make that claim, but let's be honest, it's going to be women and not guys that are naked. And basically, anytime a woman is naked anywhere doing anything, it's sexually explicit whether they want it to be or not. Because that's just how horny, guys are. That's just how it is. You can't stop that. So I fundamentally reject that one too. Likewise, I'm not taking any kind of stand against Steam. The game has had tens of millions of YouTube and Twitch views and is played by many of the top influencers. Again, I don't care. He even says, I know this in itself doesn't mean anything related to your rules, but at least shows that the game is the game is attempting to be mainstream and not extreme. Again, that doesn't mean shit. There are lots of games out there that are mainstream, but are still carry some pretty extreme shit. Like there was a good chunk of time for a while that Hatred was a pretty big game in the gaming mainstream. Even whether it was people playing it or not, it was a very extreme game that was in the mainstream eye of the gaming community. So even if you aren't attempting to be mainstream and not extreme, you still are, because that's exactly what's going to happen to a game like that. And now that this is being put on all channels, it's going to be like that. We do not feel that we have an alternate to releasing on Steam. We have spent the past years telling people to wishlist on Steam. That's not Steam's problem. Whilst we have been given some feedback, we haven't received precise feedback relating to what exactly is not okay in the game. I'm still, my bullshit meter is going on a little bit, but again, like because we're not seeing the emails that Steam is levying beforehand, I can't say for sure. But I mean, they have 2 games already on Steam. Super Seducer 1 and 2 are still on the service. So clearly, they're allowing his content in some aspect. So it seems like something he's doing in 3, which apparently is real nudity, is the impasse. And it sounds like he wasn't willing to remove it, because you don't have several messages back and forth and then suddenly be like, well, I do whatever you guys tell me to. Clearly not, because why would Steam suddenly think you're at an impasse and just say, screw it, we're banning you? I don't feel like Steam just out of nowhere, after giving you 2 of your games in the same series already on the platform, just suddenly decide, you know what, we don't want you anymore. Unless there's some background stuff that I don't know about, or that most of us don't know about. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm taking everything here and being like, look, they've let you put some of your games on there. It seems like the one thing that's different about this one is there's actual nudity in it, and it's not fake people, it's real life people, which is something they don't allow on their platform. And that's the thing. That's the big thing that they have a problem with. And if you're saying like, oh, you haven't received precise feedback relating to what exactly is not okay in the game, they literally say in this, we do not ship sexually explicit images of real people. And you're saying that, oh, they didn't tell you that at any point? I call that, there's no way that Steam is telling you this now, and that's the first time that you've heard of it. Because if they've given you feedback, clearly they would say, hey, by the way, this is against our terms of service. You need to remove this from that game. I don't believe for a second that he doesn't know that. I'm like, unless, if he has proof to say that they've never done this, like if he has all the emails that Steam has sent him and he puts them out and none of them ever say that, then I'll take this back immediately. But I cannot believe that a review board is looking at this game and not saying specifically, hey, this one thing, which seems to be the one thing that we're worried about with this game, we're not going to tell you about it. That seems really, really stupid. So that's just it. The latest approach was not the most conservative possible because we consulted a lawyer and trusted their judgment. Again, I don't know what that means to anything because, again, we're not privy to what these other changes are. To be clear, it would be easy enough to go through the game and make it as safe as some game that he's not putting up there. I can't even tell what it is. And other FMV games that you have recently shipped, totally focus on the sexually explicit images of real people, which as a first step would be removing totally all of the uncensored feedback clips, but also things like the gym instructions. So I don't really know what's going on with this. My only concern would be like, okay, well, if he's talking about sexually explicit images of real people, are we talking nude? Because if it's not nude, it sounds like it's not against Steam's protocols here. Because with their FMV games where like, you could probably have a girl that's just wearing shorts and some guys will just be like, oh man, that's so hot. It doesn't take much. Like, everything could be sexually explicit if you wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of kinks out there that have nothing to do with being sexual. That's just how it is. So, for all we know, and I've seen that in Super Seducer, there are women in bikinis. That's very sexually explicit, and especially in the way that those games are designed. So I don't believe for a second that that means anything either. So all of this just amounts to Steam being like, we're not selling the game at re-review. So basically, like, Steam was just like, dude, we're not talking to you anymore. And that's why, you know, without me, like, suddenly, like, getting super, you know, like, oh, I think I know everything that's going on here. My brain just goes, if Steam is literally not answering this anymore, I feel like there is some stuff we're not hearing, or not seeing for that matter, from prior emails that Richard is probably being a bit of a douchebag about. I'm going to lean in the avenue of Steam on this one, and I generally don't like to because I think censorship can be a big issue, but it literally, I totally understand why a platform would not want to have nudity of real people in a game, because that's where you lead into a lot of risks in terms of being sued, because as soon as it comes out that one of these games had a person even one day under the age of 18, they can be so liably fucked by this. So all I can imagine is them saying time and time again, we don't do this. Please take that out. And he kept giving them a copy of the game with it still there. And they probably just went, you know what, screw it. We're done talking to you. If you're not going to listen to us, then that's it. I'm kind of leaning that that's what happened. But until we have any of the other emails that show us like the feedback Steam was giving, we don't know. And I don't know if he's released any of those emails yet. So my understanding is if he's not showing them at this point, which he should have at this point, if he wanted to make his case, he would show that email that shows them, oh, not talking about it. If he's not showing it, then it's not happening. Then clearly it's not good. So, because I mean, I'm going to quickly just look at his Twitter and see if he's done anything different. Does he actually put anything else here since then? I just keep looking and I'm not seeing it. Like, I'm going down to at least past the point where he posted that tweet and it's not there. So I'm suspicious at this point. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm totally open to being wrong on this one, but I really do get the feeling. Like, the only thing that I saw here is he said, let me just quickly pull that tweet up and then quickly show that he's saying, like, oh, to be clear, Steam rejected both uncensored and censored versions. Never gave any specifics on what content they didn't like. Also blocked their demo, which was the gym level censored, and said that if I got an M rating, that would not affect their decision. He's not proving that. He's not showing the emails that say that. He's just saying it to have us take him on his word. I'm willing to believe at this point that Steam at least told him, you got to take the nudity out. You have to take this out. And then if that's the reasoning for why they're not putting the game on the store shelves, I'm willing to believe that that's because he was refusing to take it out. And if he doesn't show any of the emails beyond that, if he doesn't show the emails of them not saying anything, like just saying like, here's the feedback they gave me and it has nothing to do with those things, then I guess I can take him at his word then. But until those come out, we're taking him at his word, where what he's doing here is creating a game that had potentially like explicit photos of real life women, and Steam didn't want to put that on their platform, and that's their prerogative to do so. And until he shows that Steam at no point ever talked about that specifically, then I'm sorry, but I'm not going to believe you, because you aren't showing proof. You're just showing that Steam said, hey, we're banning this game. We're not going to put it on our store shelves because of this reason. And you are not showing, and all Richard is saying in return is, well, they never told me that that was the problem. Well, then show us the emails that show that they never said that. Just show the emails where they said, well, look, we want you to make a couple of changes. Here's the changes. And then never talk about that one thing. Then you might have a case. But because you're not showing those mails, I have no interest in believing you, and I have no reason to believe you. Like, It's really simple. If they don't want it on their platform because of real life nudity, that's their terms of service. That's how you work within it. It seems like they're okay with hentai games because Honeypop exists, or other games like that exist. So I don't see the issue here. I don't see what Steam doing is bad. I think if people want to cry the censorship route, well then Richard better supply some better proof that shows that they're actually censoring him. Because if he was doing everything that they wanted and they still censored him, yeah, that's really shitty, and we need to talk about Steam then. But we have no proof to show that that's what's actually happening here. So until that comes, and I assume it won't, because if he hasn't done it yet, after this thing is blown up, I'm willing to believe that that doesn't exist. Then that's it. You should have listened to what they were asking you, and it seems like you didn't do it. That's just the reality. And like I said, if I'm completely wrong on this and there's actually a lot of stuff that we just don't know yet that you aren't showing us, then I'll immediately turn back around and say the opposite. But until then, why? You haven't given me any reason to do so. And I'm going to side with Steam on this one until further notice.